Men who fell out of love with spouse or GF. What were the signs? Yes, sure. When the piece left, I didn't hate her. I just stopped feeling safe being myself. Every conversation felt like walking through a minefield. Hypervigilance. That is when I realized love had turned into management, not connection. PTSD flashbacks exactly this. Every day became an excuse that things would get better. I didn't hate her, I just hated dealing with her. Found any way I could do not have to be around. Bedroom died. Friendship died. Found myself wanting to work for an ounce of escape rather than just live my life. Just start feeling like a shell of yourself. Started sitting in my car after coming home from work or the gym. Kinda just felt like roommates. I still took care of her, cooked for us, handled my responsibilities, but it just wasn't exciting. She refused to listen to what I wanted or be serious about my concerns, so I just kinda went on autopilot. Have you tried couples counseling? Yes. It actually made it worse. Walking on eggshells. Mostly. If anything I do would start an argument and I didn't feel safe bringing anything up without something becoming an argument. That was a sign. What kind of stuff did you bring up that would start an argument? Sometimes it's the big things, how you'll raise kids and different political ideology, and sometimes it's the small stuff like leaving the keys on top of a drawer instead of the front door keyring, choosing the small fork instead of big fork for salads, cleaning dishes the wrong way, that sort of. I stopped looking forward to talking to her, spending time with her, and hearing from her. I stopped expecting affection and physical touch from her. I stopped craving. I stopped trying to get it. I realized I'd wasted 6 months of my life on someone who was never going to give me more than she currently was. So I took her on one final date and dumped her during said date. Right here with you. I was just hoping one day she would just stop texting or calling me. I was hoping she would just find some other guy and I would never hear from her again. If you open the rest of this thread, you'll see my answer to this question. Just a feeling of total numbness. I stopped feeling anything. Indifference. Love and hate are feelings. Once you hit indifference, time to go. After a decade together, she picked up new hobbies she became obsessed with. Basically started playing D&D all hours she could, and we grew apart and didn't want to spend any time together anymore. I think the last time we had sex was the real moment we both realized that it was over after 10 years. Wow, that's brutal, man. Constant arguments. Getting angry at every little thing. Not wanting to be around the other person, or having ideas of them just vanishing. When I stopped caring or getting bothered / pissed off, when she would always yell, "I'm empty inside, and am mute, and have no care," that's when I knew. Got together young, and realized as we turned 30 we wanted different things. Wouldn't say I fell out of love, but had to convince myself I did, in order to move on. I'm happy now, have a new wife, 2 fantastic kids. How did you convince yourself? What was the process of realizing you had turned into different people that didn't align anymore? Well, at 19 and 30 you know, and end up maybe wanting different things. At 19, I liked this girl, and she was funny and smart and pretty. Get married at 24, because that's what makes sense, and she's still funny and smart and pretty. But you start to realize that kids really are something you want, and you try to talk about that. And the answer isn't no, but it's not quite yes either. You explore the idea of adoption, but nothing ever takes, and then you come back to the idea of having your own. But again, it doesn't take. You turn 30, and it starts to feel like you need to or get off the pot. But she's still funny and smart and pretty. So within a year you leave, and not because she stopped being funny and smart and pretty, but because you realize life needs this one other thing that she can't provide or doesn't want to provide. And that's not on her, it's not her responsibility, but you have to break her heart. So you spend a year hurting because you don't have what you want, but now you have less. And eventually, over time, you just learn to move on. You fill voids. Sometimes with good things, and sometimes with bad things. You learn to be alone. You learn that family is most important. Then you meet someone else and accidentally get her pregnant. You build a family together. Buy a house together. create traditions together. Life goes on. I never had moments for me. I was working full-time night shift and going to school part-time during the evenings. That and her having zero accountability for her lateness. Her work started at 8 AM as a teacher and she'd be out the door at 7:45 during rush hour traffic. Just always hitting the sleep button, and it drove me insane. That and revealing herself as a bully of her sister and her increasing drunken behavior where she'd save calories throughout the day. She was trying to lose weight so she could have 3 glasses of whatever wine she wanted. I checked out. Mildly happy to be single now, but I need some me time before I even think about dating again. Plus I'm still in school and working 2 jobs now, so I'm just waiting it out. That and her having zero accountability for her lateness. Bro, I feel that. My wife was late to work every day, also a teacher, but had to be there by 7:15 for morning duty, and she would repeatedly tell me I'm late for work every day. So you have to start getting up earlier. I was like, I get the kids up and ready for school, make everyone's breakfast, and pack y'all's lunches. You can F off with that attitude. When I noticed that I had negative sentiment override, I don't do that with most people. When I noticed it with my wife, I knew I was done. We never truly got to know each other as spouses should before having a child. Looking back now, there were signs before we got pregnant, but I was too rose-colored glasses. We had our differences and ups and downs. I drank a lot in the beginning, and throughout the whole 5 years she worked maybe 50% of the time. I at one point was holding down a career change and a night job to support us. While doing that, I was still waking up to get our kid ready for daycare, picking her up after work while mom was unemployed, taking her on nightly drives so she would fall asleep. I decided to break it off, even though several months later I've come to realize I'm still in love with her. I should have done everything sooner. It hurts. She was a gaslighting narcissist. I should have listened to others. Instead, I was a coward for longer than I realized. Sounds familiar? Wish I had done things to change it earlier. It really turned when I stopped bothering to make it work. I'm in a better place now though. We used to have conversations where we accepted and supported each other's feelings. Now, she doesn't care about my feelings and doesn't want to hear about them. She has literally stated that, but she never misses an opportunity to talk about her negative feelings. Usually as a result of something that I did or didn't do that she thinks I shouldn't or should have done. It's not because of lack of effort on my part. For example, one day she said she felt cold and dark and lonely because when she came home from work, I was upstairs watching a movie with headphones on. Taking this to heart, the next day, just before she got home from work, I came downstairs, turned on all the lights, turned up the heat, put on some quiet music, and attempted to initiate a friendly conversation. Instead of appreciation, these efforts only seemed to make her even angrier. So, I guess that's my sign. This sounds exactly like a friend of mine who is with the nicest guy ever. I fear sometimes that this is what he's going through with her. Bless your heart. I can assure you, he is going through exactly that. Men put up with this for far too long. We've been together a long time, and there's always been an intense passion level, both good and bad kind. There are times I do not want to be around her. Likewise, there's times I'd do anything for her. I keep thinking we'll eventually get to an easy point in life without those peaks and valleys. Still waiting. I was sticking around for the sex. I realized this during sex and lost my boner. The signs to me, or things I was putting out for me. The two big ones were I stopped being physically interested in her despite the fact she was objectively extremely attractive. And when I heard her walk in the door, my first thought was, fuck. For what I was putting out were those two things. Probably rejecting her for the first time ever, and being standoffish. She cheated. Not really interested in sex anymore. She didn't become unattractive. I just lost my attraction. Also don't feel comfortable or safe. I had to be careful with my words. That's most of the reason for the previous. I wasn't saying anything offensive. First wife had pretty bad depression / bipolar. I tried everything to get help. She was shell of the woman I married and just refused to do pretty much anything. Eventually, and judge me all you want, I gave up. We split. I moved on. Sad, or maybe happy, part of the story is that seemed to be the catalyst to getting help. I got remarried to a wonderful woman and my ex is doing great now. We are good friends. Men weigh everything in their life with cost/benefit analysis. When a woman becomes more stressed than she is relief in his life, that is the one thing that will make him lose love for her. If she consistently fails the cost/benefit analysis, he starts to pull away. Nothing he can do other than lying to himself, which is a temporary solution, will fix this. It's all on her to self-reflect and change before it's too late. If she becomes an overwhelming pain in the ear instead of his peace and soft place, to land nothing else matters. Sure, relationships aren't all sunshine and rainbows, but it also shouldn't feel like a second job and a huge source of stress 24/7. When women hold men accountable, does it cause them stress? It's actually not all on her to change. That attitude is the problem. After I found out he was cheating, and still denied it, when I had all his texts and video calls he made, and also cheating with a friend who happened to be my BFF, I became numb and the love faded. Open bracket. I realized I was constantly walking on eggshells with her. I grew up around some explosive tempers. Crashing out when I'm expressing vulnerability is very triggering to me. I moved away from everybody to be closer to her. Things went well for a while. I totaled my car after passing out from some stomach bug she gave me the last time we spent time together. Thanks for the sex, I guess. I got locked in survival mode and became a lot less emotionally available as a result. She kept escalating her demands. I felt very alone. She asked for a break after I told her this, and I made that break permanent. It still took me more than a year to feel like I was free from her. When she solved her jealousy issues with violence and coincidentally cheating, I was walking on eggshells all the time. Every decision I made felt like it would have consequences. I found myself doing things just to give me some sense of affection, rather than to make her happy. Every day became about management. She realized she fell out of love before I did. She left me, and I tried to make her stay. A couple of weeks after that I realized I hadn't loved her properly in over a year. I was just used to having her around. When something is always wrong, or there's a constant issue or conflict that has to be solved, despite the fact you take care of 80% of things in the relationship, consistent and constant chaos on their end causing you anxiety, feeling like you'd rather be alone most of the time because you know there will be drama otherwise, the lack of feeling anything, numbness because you're anticipating the next landmine. You go from walking on eggshells to realizing you could float over them and still set things off. Lastly, when you think about life in the future and it's hard to envision the person as they are in your future plans, stopped wanting to spend any time with her, actively looked for excuses to not have to be around or communicate with her, lost any respect or care I had for her, and automatically discounted any opinions she shared. When having a disagreement, if she'd voice her opinion or concerns about something, I'd respond okay and continue on with what I was doing. She called it out one time and said it feels like you're dismissing me, and I told her it was because that's what I was doing. The sign. About 60 and up pounds.